All right, we are live.
I'd like to take this opportunity to call the July 8th, 2021 planning board meeting to order. Taylor, Ms. Tanya, have you guys already done roll call?
Yes.
All right. Has everybody had opportunity to review the minutes? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Sir,
I'll make a motion.
motion, do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Is that all three sets?
I'm assuming so. Ms. Tanya, do we have any public comments?
I am not aware of any. Taylor, did you receive any today?
Nobody signed up.
I did not know.
Okay, then no, sir.
All right. Board commissioner responses. Yes, sir.
I have two. One, I like the way you opened the meeting, and Rodney, thank you. Two, our director, as of July 1st, Anya, is now the full director of both planning and inspections, effective as of July 1. So we all want to say thank you, and we appreciate what you're doing. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Paisley.
Thank you,
Ms.
sir.
Tanya? Ms. Tanya,
Yes.
before we get started in new business, I think Mr. Cheek has something he'd like to address.
All right.
Rodney? I know he's not here. I understand that.
Every once in a while, we, just for clarification, remind everybody that now the planning board is a volunteer group of Alamance County citizens who serve the pleasure of the county commissioners. And the planning board has no official authority, so we can't do things. What we have is time. That's the joke. I don't know why y'all ain't laughing about that. But we take our time to research issues and make recommendations to the commissioners, hopefully to help them better guide the county. And we also want to keep in mind that government's role is supposed to be to do the most good for the most people the most of the time. Because everybody knows that one size don't fit all. So when we make our recommendations to the commissioners and they choose to do other, it's not for us then to turn around and when I say us, I'm talking about me, to be miffed at taking my time to research a point and make a suggestion and then them do different. It's for me then to say, well, okay, we give an opportunity, they chose to not use it, so it's on them. And we as a planning board, every once in a while need to hear this commercial. And we also need to balance in this thought process that there's a lot of stuff going on, and in some cases, things that we may or may not be wholly aware of. So, most recent, for example, when we as a board vote unanimously to take some verbiage out of an ordinance, and the legal department says to the commissioners, it really needs to be here. Then the county commissioners get to make a decision and say, all right, well, do we listen to the legal department or do we listen to this group of volunteer citizens? And when the decision's made, and whatever it is, we move forward. Hopefully everybody can still be friends on the tail end. And I think you remember the first time this commercial came out, was involved in that sexually oriented business ordinance.
I remember that.
And this just using a few minutes of time. So I just share that with everybody to kind of remind, or very few people get everybody on the same page. But I thank you for your humanly work.
Well, Ms. Tanya, what do you have for us in new business?
First thing on the agenda tonight is approval of the minutes. There are a couple meetings we've got in there. The May 13th and recess to the 19th meeting, and then the June 10th. They can be voted on all at once or separately.
We already have.
We have already voted on those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I must not have heard that vote. Okay, so new business. Tonight we have a public hearing, and I believe, Ray, you've got some verbiage there to open that public hearing. This is for heavy industrial development ordinance application for a phase 2 at the Philippine landfill. We
Yes,
do
ma'am.
have Kim and Kenneth here. Kim, if you want to turn your video and your volume back on. Ray, if you want to read that public hearing information, do we have anybody there for the public hearing?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right, so most of that's not going to be necessary, but if you can read through part of the verbiage just to make it officially a public hearing to open it, y'all will have to vote to open this public hearing as well, and then you'll have to vote to close it, and then vote for recommending approval or denial.
All right, I'm gonna have to let Rod do this because I don't have my glasses on. So,
You can elect whomever, yes.
all right, I'll tell you, here, Mr. Willoughby, take care of that, please. I can't see. Can you see it? No, go ahead.
Well, I'm not chair, so I should, as speaker for the chair
Thank you.
of the Alamance County Plan Board, I'd like to explain the procedures used for this hearing. All those wishing to speak are asked to sign the roster at the podium if you've not done so. A staff member of the planning department will present an overview of the case, then the applicant will have the opportunity to speak on behalf of the application. Anyone else present to speak on behalf or against the proposed application will be allowed to speak. The applicant may then be given an opportunity to present any response. Board members are asked to refrain from questions until each speaker has completed his or her presentation. The proceedings of this board will be governed by the Unified Development Ordinance. Is that enough? Is that
That should
sufficient?
do it. Yes, sir, and then if somebody could call the public hearing to order.
All right, I'd like to call the public hearing to order.
All right, from Taylor, are you able to move the screen to the site plan, please?
Yes.
So what you're going to see is Mr. Philippi has an inert debris landfill existing in the county. He had an original application approved, I believe it was 2017, that's in the write-up, and has, or maybe 2015, and is operating under about 2 acres of his land. Total, he has 21 acres of land. He is categorized as a class 1 in the heavy industrial categories. Totally, he's got 21 acres out there. So now he's needing to expand simply because he's filling up the current inert debris landfill that he's got. So you'll see on the front and the back side of his current landfill, he's looking for opportunity to do a phase 2. He has some buffers for his streams, and he's showing our setbacks and landscaping and everything on his site plan. At this point, I'll let Kenneth and Kim present their part, and then the board can just kind of ask questions from there.
Can you hear us?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. I've got a pretty good signal where we're at. So we're actually on vacation. I apologize. Kenneth couldn't get back in time for the meeting because of the weather. Do you want to explain to them what your plan is? Just tell them what you're going to do.
Well, like Tanya explained to y'all, that's what we're needing to get handled. Would help us out on the 2 acres I already got, and it's 2 acres in the back, 2 acres on the front, just to be able to dump on, continue on.
So y'all do have a copy in your agenda, but just to point it out, this is the existing area. So new is here closer to Timesville, and then new is here in the back.
Okay.
I didn't hear her. What did she say?
She's saying what was on that site plan.
Yeah, she's just pointing out to the board, they have a printed visual of your plan in front of them at the meeting tonight. So she was pointing out where the new areas were.
Yeah. I did want to address one thing. I think there had been mention of the traffic situation. I think that might have been a concern. I wanted to go ahead and kind of say the traffic, we're not expanding the landfill to bring in more traffic or more debris. It is to take care of the existing customers that we have coming in, because we do have a contract with the city of Burlington and the town of Elon. They bring in a lot of debris, so they're already bringing it in. We're just running out of room at this point, and this is for us to buy us time until our plan is hopefully in the future to recycle, be able to grind that, recycle, and produce mulch, and that will obviously save space, but we right now are not in the position to do that. So this expansion would give us some more room and help us out until we get to that point where we're comfortable making that move.
Thank you, Ms. Philippi.
Are there any other questions that we might need to answer? It's pretty much, I mean, like I said, it's to accommodate the customers that we already have coming in until we can figure out this recycling thing that we want to do with the grinder. And two, we're trying to save up some money to get that done too. So this is just to buy us time until then.
Tub grinders are extremely expensive. I was just at your
Yes.
way. They are. I was just at your way not too long ago. There's a new subdivision going in right down Collins Road from you guys. So if any of the neighbors are concerned about traffic, it's most likely going to come from that subdivision.
I agree. We've got a lot of new houses, even on Clap Mill and surrounding. We've got a lot of new subdivisions going in. So if traffic is a concern, I mean, like I said, we're not planning on it. We don't want to expand it to bring in more traffic. We just want to accommodate the people that we already have coming in. So.
Thank you, Ms. Philippi.
You're welcome.
Ms. Tanya, is any other comments from anybody? Ms. Taylor, what do you think?
Kim covered, we had a couple of people ask questions about traffic. It sounds like they're not there for the public hearing, but Kim's kind of covered the traffic concern. And that is the only thing we heard about during the process of this. Had to go out and be put in the newspapers. They had to post their property. They had to provide adjoining property owners letters and notice of the hearing. So all of those were done in conformance with the heavy industrial section of the UDO. So all of that was done. We reached out, and that's the only concerns we heard about.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tanya.
Yes, sir.
Lee, you remember a couple of years ago when we were reviewing the highway ordinance? You, Bill, and myself, we took a field trip down to Mr. Phillippi's facility down on Gainesville Road. Best I can remember is it was an extremely well-run place. Look, people from our short time there. Granted, everybody is concerned over things, but it was probably one of the nicer landfills that I've been in the construction business. And the fact that they are providing services to the city of Burlington and the town of Elon, I mean, for me, that right there, with the job they're doing down there and they're working with municipalities, I mean, I'm satisfied with Mr. Philippi, what he's doing down there. Anybody else? I mean, jump in, folks. Give some comments.
I got some things. All right, so I took a trip on down to your place last evening and drove in there a little bit and around the neighborhood a little bit. And I don't see too many concerns or issues now. And I guess some of this will be for Tanya to answer. This is the new UDO, and I see the setbacks there of the 150 and all that, and stream buffers and all that sort of stuff. But now on the previous permit, there was no fencing required. Is there fencing required now? And being that the place is kind of like landlocked with a lot of trees and shrubberies already, it looks like there's no problem with screening and all that. Would I see the gate is added. There's a gate now on the plan. Is there any other fencing required to comply with the new ordinance?
No, it's just the buffers on it, screening buffers, you know, like you see.
Right. So that, I guess that question maybe more for Tanya about fencing, and if we're not going to do fencing, is there a waiver put on that, or how do you handle that to address that section of?
The last time I was down there, it's not been that long ago. The last time I was down there, the way they had the driveway cut in and everything, I mean, even if they put up a fence, a gate, or whatever at the driveway, it's not gonna make no difference, because when you pull in, all you can see is dump truck, two pieces of construction looking sitting around. You're gonna get deeper into the heart of that piece of property before you see anything. Like I said, and I'm saying this honestly and conservative. Philippi Landfill they should be the poster child for everybody else at once. They doing a great job. I mean, the services they're providing to the construction industry as well as other municipalities, I'm not saying a problem. None. I mean, they need 2 more acres, they need another 2-acre sale to keep their facility up and running. I mean,
I agree.
they're doing a great job, so that's all I gotta say about that.
I have no issue with moving forward with this and all that. It's just there that section of the HIDO or about the fencing. So this doesn't have fencing. Do you give a waiver on that, or how do you handle that?
Mr. Phillips, what year did you open up down there?
It's been 5 or 6 years.
Okay,
I really been at least that long.
okay, 5 or 6 years, HIDO was already in place a whole lot stricter than what it is now in some industries. What's the story on that, Ms. Tanya, as far as fencing is required?
I believe they're pulling that up now. Give me just a minute. I think Taylor's pulling it up too. Taylor, is that you pulling that up? Yes.
Yeah.
So 6-foot fence with a self-locking gate. Yes.
So, like I said, they're showing a gate, and I really don't have any heartburn with not having fencing. Because the property is so landlocked, thick with trees anyhow.
Right.
There's probably some trees that may have been taken down by the entrance from what I remember when we took our field trip. But, and seems like, you have some landscaping area or landscape mulch area there right now in some bends or something. So I'm assuming those are all going to stay to the front. And then all the debris is going to be behind all that.
That's correct.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So I just didn't know how to address it within the ordinance. Do you give them a waiver? Do they have to apply for it, or do we just blanketly give it to them? I don't know how to address that part of it.
Well, the fencing comes in the.
Right. This is not a new application. This is a renewal or an expansion of an old existing one. So they would fall under the old regulation. The fencing would have no application in this.
That seems reasonable, but I mean, in all honesty, I mean, with the property he has there and the way, the foliage and everything, the trees, I mean, any fencing of any kind would be a moot point on that particular situation.
But I don't think it even applies.
I don't think it does either.
How are renewals, or not renewals, but expansions, does it fall under the new HIDO or does it just go under the 2011?
We allow expansion on existing property that was owned when it was under the old law.
Okay.
So since this is in 2011, since they're on their own land,
And fencing was suggested,
was
not
suggested,
required.
but not required under 2011.
All right, so then that brings up another point then, in the 2011, I think a number one, the setback was different, right? It was actually less, it wasn't 150, I think it was like 75. So you could actually redo his plan and use more of his properties, if you're going with the 2011. I think a number one setback is different. Is that not right?
Hold on, let me find it. Let me get that one pulled up because I'm trying to do it on my phone. Both of them.
I as well pull it up. There's a lot of windows open. Give me just a minute.
Yeah, I'm looking for those.
Yeah, class one in 2011 was an operation setback of 75 feet, not 150. So he could actually revise.
See a class one, and this one is 2011. I know we changed the classes around a little bit in 2019.
Right, it was still a class one, whether it was 2011 or 2020. It got tougher in 2020 to the 150 feet, which it looked like he was complying with. But if this is just an expansion off an existing thing and he can use the 2011, that means he can actually go with a 75-foot setback, not a 150-foot setback. He can utilize more of his property at this point, is the way I see it.
I agree.
Yeah, but that would also mean that he would meet.
Yeah, he's overly compliant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Go to a 75-foot setback. That's the case.
Because it's section 3(2), on an alteration, expansion, non-conforming. He would be non-conforming. Well, I don't know if it'd be non-conforming. He would be,
My next question.
there would be existing. Regulated land use existing and legal operation on the date of initial adoption 2020 ordinance does not conform with Robert's Code. So, yeah, he would have to show you that he was. He would need to show. I think it'd be fine.
So in reference to this conforming, Taylor, is he in compliance now with his operation?
Yes,
Will he be in compliance with this expansion?
he does meet the standards.
So is this a staff issued permit or does this need to go before the county commission?
This will go before the board of commissioners.
I move that we recommend the county commissioners grant him a permit for his expansion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Have a discussion.
All right, thank you, Kim and Kenneth. This is actually a recommendation board. They've made their recommendation for approval. You will be on the agenda for the August 2nd Board of Commissioners meeting, and that is a 9:30 a.m. meeting. We can catch up
Okay.
with you next week after this meeting when y'all get back and talk about some details of that.
Okay, Tanya
Absolutely.
and Kim and Kenneth, you're actually going to be on the agenda for July 19th.
No,
Okay.
did, Taylor, did
Thursday.
someone? The chair said so. Okay, because, all right, well, we'll work that out then.
Okay, just let us know what we need to do from here.
I will. I'll get with you next week.
Ms.
All
Tolan,
right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Before you let her go, I think Bill's got one more question.
All right, Kim, one more
Okay.
question.
Yeah, one more
All right.
question. Is there a state permit that needs to be applied for with the DEQ or anything like that?
That's our next step. We had to go through the county first, and then we will have to go through the rest of the state process. To get, yeah. So
Good
we
luck.
can't go any farther with the state until we get this part of it taken care of.
All right. I have a question. It's not so much about this, but something that Neil brought up about, I'm just curious what the process would be. Say, for instance, this did fall underneath the new height and fencing is required, but in a situation like this, fencing wouldn't necessarily be help to it. How would we then address that to remove that, the fencing from the person's need to comply?
We allow a waiver?
Right, do we allow a waiver of that, or what's the process, or is there a process?
Can we allow a waiver?
Well, you would, there's the standards you have to find. You can't just give them the waiver, there has to be the requirements. About a year, it would be under the new 160. But I think we have some. That it would be extraordinary exceptional conditions as pertaining to the place of property in question. Shot size, shape, topography. Variance will not confer upon the applicant any special privileges that are or would be denied or similar to individuals. Ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the situated officials. And the variance would not deter from the purpose and intent of the ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or general welfare, and the special circumstances causing the need for that variance are not the fault of the applicant.
So, yes.
Yeah, you would just have to find that it does exist, or it has to be evidence.
In this case, it'd be the wooden boundary.
There may even be a fence there already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you just have to.
Just document the reason why.
Yeah, and so there would have to be, at the hearing, somebody would have to come in and make, present evidence, and then you would have to say, based on the evidence presented, we find this. These rules.
Thank you.
There's a special rule of that.
All right, well, this being approved, and he's obviously in compliance now, this is an intent to construct permit, he goes gets a state permit, comes back for an operations permit. Then does he submit if he wants to utilize more of his property? Because again, we've established now his operation setback, really only 75. Does he submit a new drawing at that time of operations permit and before Tanya goes out there and approves it?
Well, he may get that tub grinder and not need it. That could happen. Yeah.
The state recommends 100 foot.
Okay.
Yeah, see, before the county was 75, but the state usually have stricter restrictions. And they had it 100. So that's my last one was 100, but now, now it's 150. So.
Well, and actually, that's what we just voted for, that you're actually on the old ordinance, that you could utilize 100 foot, if that's what the state requires.
Yeah.
Go back to the 100 foot. Pick up another 50 foot all the way around, might help you out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, sure would.
Get everybody? All right, Ms. Tanya, what else you have for us?
All right, tonight you also have, now Kim and Ken, if y'all are done, y'all can listen in or y'all can jump off. It's up to you.
All right,
we
thank
also-
you.
Yes, ma'am. We have a presentation from Stewart, our consulting group that's going to help us with the Snow Camp Small Area Zoning Ordinance. So they will take over at this point and have a presentation for you all. Jake, are y'all there?
Yeah, we're here.
Awesome. Do you have controls? Can you project?
Let me try.
Taylor, you can unshare your stuff. Oh, there we go.
Does that work?
Yes. Can y'all see that, Taylor?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Fantastic, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for having us. My name's Jake Petrosky. I've met many of y'all during the development of the land development plan. But we also have a few other folks from Stewart that are on the call and that are going to be working on this project. Jay McLeod and Andrea Radford are also helping us out, and they're kind of our ordinance experts, so they know even more than me about how to make a good ordinance. So they might help answer some questions if y'all have any. This is kind of meant to be really just like a kickoff with you all, and talk a little bit about the project schedule, the scope of what we're doing. Give you a little bit of information on the outline of the Snow Camp zoning ordinance, how it's taking shape, and then talk about next steps and answer any questions that you all have initially. We'll be working with a steering committee on this project, and then it's going to come back to you all for discussion purposes, and eventually you all are going to have to recommend approval to the Board of Commissioners, and that's how it would get implemented eventually. So what are we doing with the project? We're creating zoning districts and dimensional standards for each of those districts for the Snow Camp area, really the greater Snow Camp area, that southwestern part of the county, as recommended by the land development plan. There's also going to be a map associated with those districts. In the land development plan, there was a recommendation in the Snow Camp small area plan that was a part of that effort. And the recommendation was consider implementing additional regulations to manage growth and high impact land uses in the Snow Camp area. And it went on to say, some form of zoning might be appropriate, and it laid out kind of options and also some recommendations for what those zoning districts could look like. This is a big step for the county. The county, doesn't have traditional zoning yet, but there's a lot of different ordinances that regulate land use. So there's a history of land use regulation and ordinances in the county. But this plan really recommended the focus of this effort in the new Snow Camp zoning ordinance would really be about managing growth and those high impact land uses in this area, with a particular aim at preserving agriculture and rural character in Snow Camp. So that's the main focus of this. The schedule, as we look at it here, we're right here in the third orange diamond there. We're going to have a meeting with you all to kind of get your thoughts on things and kind of introduce you to what we're going to be doing over the next few months. And then we're going to meet with the Board of Commissioners later on this month, July 19th. And then we're going to have our first steering committee meeting as well. We've begun, looking at the current set of ordinances in your new UDO and how this ordinance would fit in there, and also drafting an outline of the ordinance. And we're working on drafting the actual ordinance and a draft zoning map. We're going to work with the steering committee over the next 2 months, and eventually have a draft ordinance that we want the members of the public to review and you all to review, and really work through this over the next few months, and hopefully have something back to you that we feel pretty good about, that by the end of October or thereabouts. So getting into the draft outline of the ordinance, the purpose of this is really to regulate the character of land use and development in the Snow Camp area, to mitigate conflicts between incompatible land uses and minimize negative impacts to the natural environment, and protect local character, aesthetics, quality of life, including agriculture in that. This ordinance is going to have a number of different review procedures, some of which are going to be new and some are not new in the county. There will be an administrative review procedure where an ordinance compliant certification is authorized, and that's if it's similar to the way some things work now. If the new development meets certain criteria and it's zoned appropriately, then they get this ordinance compliance certificate. There's a legislative process that will be relatively new, and it's a rezoning process where if the initial zoning is one thing and a property owner wants to change and rezone the property to another use, then the planning board will make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners, and then that will be how that works, and specifically for rezonings. And then there will be a quasi-judicial method of approval, and these are really going to be for special use permits primarily, but also some other things like variances and appeals for administrative decisions. But the special use permit is another kind of process where, particularly for heavy industrial uses in the snow camp area, the land development plan recommended a special use permit process to approve them. So that is another process that it would have to go through to get certain uses to get approved in the snow camp area. And this right here is going to be, talked about a lot more. We can kind of go through this a lot more whenever we have the full ordinance in front of you. But those are the three types of review and approval procedures that'll be part of this. The zoning districts. Right now, we're thinking there's going to be 4 zoning districts: an agricultural district that's really geared towards agriculture and related uses with some limited residential, a rural residential area. It's mostly low density neighborhoods with a rural cluster option, and then a rural center area with small scale commercial, usually at crossroads. Most of the existing commercial businesses would fall into this category, and then an industrial district that is appropriate for industrial uses where performance standards of the HIDO would be met, but there would be that other approval process where they would have to get a special use permit to locate a new use in the snow camp area. As far as the use regulation goes, primary uses will be regulated by district, and you'll see this in subsequent tables, but P stands for the use is permitted. Like you can do this use in that district, not a problem. Special use permit required, or S, that's where you have to go through that additional approval step to get approved. And then the use is prohibited. And also this is not meant to be comprehensive. Some uses are not going to be listed in the ordinance, and those are going to be permitted or prohibited in this part of the county. For every use and group in the ordinance, there's going to be a description, there's going to be examples, and then other standards if they apply. And we'll talk about and give examples of this. Down here, you see the daycare facility, the description of the daycare, and then examples, and then if any other requirements like certain different types of more parking or some other kind of special site design criteria would be needed. That'll be mentioned in here as well. So if you look at, this is an example, really a snapshot of that table of permitted uses that we're working on fleshing out, but this just shows kind of residential uses. So you see that most residential uses are going to be permitted in every district, and except for the manufactured home subdivision or park, that's going to require a special use permit, at least in the draft. And we can kind of talk about what gets a P and is permitted and what is a special use permit and that sort of thing. That's something that we've been working with staff on, but the steering committee and members of the public and you all can weigh in on that as well. And then non-residential, it's going to have, very similar approach. Daycares are permitted in rural residential and rural commercial, but maybe not in the ag or in the industrial areas, and on down. The RC district, the rural center district, is really meant to be, most commercial or non-residential uses, except for some more higher intensity things. They might require a special use permit due to the kind of rural nature of the snow camp area. But this is just not the entire list, but this is just to give you an example of what's going to be coming out of this process, and something that you can definitely review as it comes out in full draft. Each zoning district will have standards that are established, and they'll regulate things like maximum density or maximum dwelling units per acre, minimum lot size, minimum lot width, and some other criteria. Setbacks and some other standards are already established elsewhere in the UDO. So we may just reference different pieces of the UDO. So we don't necessarily have to rewrite everything. We're going to be pulling things in and referencing things that are already established in the UDO. There might be some additional standards for design of subdivisions related to access or lot design, frontage on streets, grading in certain areas or not grading in other areas, streets, utilities, and street or yard trees. Those are some other things that may show up in this ordinance that are not required currently in the subdivision ordinance portion of the UDO. One of the things that we're trying to do in the snow camp area is balance different interests and balance the desire to protect agriculture, but also the need to protect property rights, and understanding that some farms will continue and some farms will not. So one of the things that we want to do is come up with a rural cluster subdivision option that is attractive and kind of balances the need to protect kind of the character of the area, but also the need for some options for your property, and also to accommodate some residential growth. So this rural cluster subdivision option is a way to, in the rural residential area, allow some flexibility in lot size, but also preserve some open space and preserve that rural character. So we'll talk more about this, but this is kind of an illustration of what we're trying to do in a lot of areas in the county due to lack of zoning and really flexible standards. Conventional development can look like something on the left. What we're trying to incentivize and encourage in the snow camp area is something more like on the right that has maybe less number of lots than currently allowed, but some flexibility in lot size and some protections to adjacent property owners, especially working agriculture and that sort of thing. So there will be that rural cluster option in the rural residential area. So, how does this all translate to the map? This is, the map is something that people really want to get to automatically, and it's under development. We're kind of creating a zoning map, and what we're going to be basing it on is the future land use map from the land development plan, but also a closer look at kind of existing uses in the study area, in the snow camp area. Looking at parcel size, existing land uses, and then working agricultural lands. And here's just a couple, quick maps of the study area itself. This is kind of what we're calling the snow camp area. You can tell it's what people traditionally know as snow camp, but a little bit to the east and the west and down to the Chatham County line. And you can see that, most of the property sizes are quite large. The average property size is about 11 acres. The average residential property size is about 5 acres. How we draw these districts where that rural residential area where we do allow some more residential development, we'll probably go ahead and honor some of those existing subdivisions and those will be that rural residential classification. And then some of these other larger parcels, particularly areas that are in the present use value program and working agricultural parcels, those might get the agricultural designation. Existing land use is something that we're also looking at for that initial assignment of the zoning districts. You can see where there's some small scale commercial areas, and those would likely get that rural center classification. And then the agricultural lands, you can see where those are as well. So I know that's a lot of information, but like I said, it's not the last time we're gonna talk about this. And the next steps really we're gonna talk with the board later on this month and kind of introduce the process and get their thoughts on things and anything they want us to look at. And then the steering committee, we're going to meet with them a few times between now and having a draft ordinance for review and also a public workshop. There's going to be 2 public workshops, but the first one will be after we have that draft ordinance together. So that's my contact information, Tanya's. But at this time, we'll kind of pause and we can go back and talk about anything in particular. The only thing is we can hear y'all, but we can't hear you if a lot of people talk at once. So might have to repeat your question a little bit, but we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jake. Anybody have any comments, discussion?
Yes. All right, so Jake, how are y'all handling home-based businesses? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of home-based businesses with no zoning at all down there. We got Mr. Lincoln, you got a trucking company down there, and it's on your acreage and stuff like that. I mean, does property have to become commercial or non-compliance and have to go through all that? I mean, there's a lot of like home-based businesses and people working out of their house or whatever, from small construction companies to, you know, that one doll shop lady there right up above the store on Snow Camp Road. So she has a little shop there at her house. So how does that play into it?
Well, go ahead, Jay. You go ahead, Jay.
Sorry. I was just going to say, we're not really thinking right now. We don't have any thoughts about doing that. That's a really good question because home occupations is a big question and it can be a point of contention between neighbors. Right now, we don't really have anything on our radar for doing anything with that. And since the table of permitted uses only would regulate primary uses, any of those side businesses would be kind of like secondary to the use of a residence as a home. And it would really only become a problem for Tanya and enforcement if that business started taking over the home so much that really it wasn't being used as a home anymore. But we can get with Tanya or get some direction from you right now if y'all want and give us some ideas on how you think you would like to handle it, and we can work something in to the code.
I mean, in general, I think our approach, especially in this area, since it's a rural area, and really a lot of agricultural areas, there's multiple things going on. Typically, the farm is not the only source of income. So in this area, we want to be flexible related to home-based businesses, and some might be classified as that rural center if it's a big enough operation. But some, like Jay said, they might just be considered secondary uses, and we can kind of look into some different ways and work with Tanya and the steering committee on how to approach that. But if you all have any thoughts, then let us know.
Nick, I have a question for you and Tanya both. Since there's currently no zoning anywhere in this county, if there is a home-based business and it is already established up and running, would there not be consideration taken into place for them?
There would. That's kind of back to that non-conforming / grandfathered use you see in most of our ordinances. That would be something something new could be regulated, something old maybe may not, depending on how we write the ordinance. That would be more the control of how we wanted to handle those.
Okay, I just wanted that cleared up because, you know, I mean, the whole idea for this snow camp zoning is to help the community. And to come in and when you have any business that's already established, it's up and running, to come in and restrict them and or try to prevent them from doing what they're doing is kind of sort of working against, I think, what the end product is what we're trying to work for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a good point because what we don't want to do is cause a lot of fuss over nothing. You know, if a home-based business has been working and you know there for a number of years and it's not causing any problems with neighbors and that sort of thing, we don't want to make that business jump through hoops just to continue what they're doing. You know, I mean that's the one thing, and we're looking at, you know, some some counties that have done this well, and then some counties that, you know, have caused some issues where there really shouldn't have been any too by assigning them, you know, a zoning district. And then, you know, we don't want to make the property owner have to jump through hoops just to continue doing what they're doing. So we'll be that's something that we'll be looking at.
Okay, that's reasonable, because I mean, you know, I understand that the ag community needs representation. Well, the business community needs it as well.
Right.
And at the same time, I mean, it's a balancing act going on down there. Well, actually in the whole entire county, but for right now, we're in snow camp. It's just, everybody needs to be taken into consideration. And that's all I have. Anybody else have anything?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
On your residential use, and you're going to promote the cluster development, are we going to have and talk about lot sizes, whether it's 1 acre or so many thousand square foot? I mean, I know our subdivision ordinance right now has a lot of you know, potential to be smaller stuff, and I can foresee out there in a lot of the larger rural tracts, you know, whether it's like a 1 acre requirement or 2.5 acre requirement, everything's going to be septics out there anyhow, septics and wells. So is that something on your plate to look at, lot sizes, square foot?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the takeaway from land development plan and you know, guidance we got there is, you know, we don't want to allow really small lots and a lot of density down here. So that's certainly something that we're going to be looking at. We're kind of fine tuning our approach to that right now, in terms of, you know, what is the minimum lot size, and do you regulate that, or overall density of a tract of land? And, you know, I think that, you know, we'll make it available to y'all and talk with y'all whenever we finalize that. But I think that we're talking about, you know, the rural residential area, which is going to be a lot of the most of the areas, you know, having a pretty high lot size, minimum lot size, but allowing some flexibility with that rural cluster, but capping an overall density of 1 unit per 2 acres or 1 unit per 3 acres or something like that. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of lot size within that rural cluster. You know, maybe even down to like 20,000 square foot or something if you could get a septic tank on there. But you would have to preserve some open space around it. So overall, that tract of land, you know, is not a very dense development. So if that makes sense.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Tanya, I believe that's it.
All right,
That's
great.
all I have.
Well, thanks a lot, y'all. We'll talk
Thank you, Jay.
more soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, Stuart. Whole group, all the Stewart group.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Ms. Tanya, do you have anything for us on old business?
I do not.
Okay, what about is there any announcements for discussion?
No announcements. Well, I guess there is one announcement during the budget approval process for this year, effective July 1st. Planning's been allowed to add on a planner position, a planner 1. Taylor is a planner 2. So we are going to be able to add staff. We're looking at also working a contract with the town of Swepsonville, handling some of their planning, and they've gone into doing some zoning and stuff. So part of that position will be used for that, and moving forward into the zoning for Snow Camp, found it necessary to have another position to help us out.
All right. Ms. Tanya, is that everything?
That is it for me.
Do we have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ms. Tanya.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.